Not sure if this is going to work. I'm not as smart. I'm not as smart or as gifted as someone who should be talking about this. In one sense, but in another sense, we're all the ones who are supposed to be talking about this, right? Actually, this is reminding me of that brilliant pink, like when we look at the sun with our eyes closed, when we stare at the sun with our eyes closed. Okay, so this is Proofecy Protocol number 3, but it's worth noting. And all of the all of the philosophy aside, all of the religious texts and study and interpretations aside, the pink hand is the new symbol. The pink hand will change the world. The pink hand used to be at concerts. People held up lighters. Now people hold up their phones. The new sign will be a lighter or a phone beneath the hand. 30,000 of them, light in the sky pink. That brilliant magenta blood. That puce. That marriage of the ultraviolet and the infrared. Anyway, that's a side note. Proofecy Protocol, what I didn't get to yesterday. Yesterday was mostly a warning, and once again, if you're not feeling well, return to this when you are. If you're interested but not feeling well and looking for answers, if you're not feeling well, maybe you're mature enough to understand, like, sometimes when you're not feeling well, there are answers to be found. But and I rely upon content as a form of meditation. Like, if I can't get there myself, content is a gift. If I'm feeling too dark and too heavy, watching some comedy, even if it's really vulgar, that's like a super huge spiritual gift. You know? Or sometimes if you're feeling dark and heavy, like a drama, or even if you're pursuing asceticism or abstinence or celibacy, like a romance, a rom-com, A romantic comedy is it's like a good meditation. Like it alleviates some stuff, you know. Other times, if you're feeling down, it depends. There's so many different kinds of down, right? And all this media, it's a good thing. I watched a Jim Carrey, a half hour of Jim Carrey to get my spirits up enough to make this video because they were down. I'm down a lot, and a lot of times when I make a video that I feel is important, like I suit myself up a little bit. Well, and that's the thing about booze. Again, all these efforts only matter if I achieve the goal. People say it's all about the process, and the process it's about the goal and the process. And the goal is winning this war of peace. I'll get I'll get at another time more on the magenta hand. That blood, that light. The plasma. The fourth state. Never mind the fifth state. But yeah, Proofecy Protocol, once again, okay. And please watch my other Proofecy Protocol videos before this one for a little bit of clarity. And again, I'll have more to say, but I just want to get this out so I'm done with it for now so I can move on to other things. And this can be returned to having laid a little bit of groundwork. If you're seeing things that are cartoony and crazy and weird, insecty, smeary, mocking, or dangerous or evil or angry or mad, if you're emotionally responding to things you're seeing in the shadows, you have two choices. If you can unemotionalize yourself from it, and that's what I'm trying to give as a gift of sorts, is telling you, as I just discovered through experience, if you're becoming emotional because of the experience, but you're able to just say, this isn't a big deal, and turn off the emotion, and you're successful with that, keep going. If not, step away, get away, do something else. If you've come that far, trust me, it will come again. That's what in the last video I called the veil. It could be called the boundary. It could be called a curvature of space-time threshold. Not necessarily into a singularity, but between phases. I also didn't mention in my last video that in my first video, one of the things I didn't mention was that there was also Monday a certain harmonic of collapsing nows happened. On Monday, there was a series of symbologies that collapsed to the moment when I pressed my phone and started typing in live news. On the Tuesday before that, a series of nows collapsed to the point they were separate harmonics. On Tuesday, a certain harmonics of nows of the day or nows of the week collapsed to when I pressed the actual button on my phone, record. Before that, in Monday, a different series of harmonics collapsed to when exactly as I was in the moment, I would start typing live news. And in that day, a different series of harmonics collapsed to the actual video that I pressed play on. So the whole thing is I'm trying to develop a protocol. What's that mean? It means as these things started happening to me, I was like, I might be able to use this to actually prove something. So a couple days before I made my first Proofecy Protocol video, I said to myself, well, this is what I'll do. You know, like, I'll make a video. But then I started realizing, well, what would that require in the future? Like, if I see something now, what would it require in the future? What do I need to do in the future so that what happens now is reflected in the vision that I can record, if that makes sense? So I told myself, like, that I could start making these videos. And then the other day when I had that vision, or peering, it, I said to myself, hey, wait a minute. Maybe I'm having this peering because I make the video. So then I said to myself, well, in about an hour from now, something's going to happen. And because of the nature of what I saw, and because of where I was at in the order of my day, I realized, like, yeah, I think this is going to be the video. So then I started laying out the groundwork, reminding myself to look straight because I'd noticed that. And I kind of was pacing around, just kind of waiting, having a feeling that those nows of the week were collapsing, and I didn't know what they were till I saw them. The one that I won't talk about the one that started Monday, but the one that started Tuesday, I was painting trim in this house for a week. So I was always looking at trim and cutting it in, and there would always be like a big glob of paint that I was like trying to stretch out. So it was like a piece of trim and like usually like a glob of paint. Not just like at the end of stretching out that glob where it's just pretty much the brush and paint coming off the brush, but like when you first dip your brush and like cut in, specifically it was happening when I was cutting trim in against the wall, like the side piece of trim. Can you see it here? Like when I was cutting in right here, not when it was happening here, but like when I was cutting it in right there, and there'd be the big glob. And it happened over and over again in all the books that I was listening to, and all. Well, I was listening to books. I was listening to Armand Ptolemy and the Golden Aleph by Mark Jeffrey. I was listening to uh, Mark Tegmark's, or Tegmark. What's his first name? I'm having a brain fart. Tegmark, the cosmologist. His book, I forget the title, but it's the one where it has the two, like, I think they're microwave background radiation maps on the cover, but they might not be. I don't know enough about physics yet. Maybe someday I will. I was listening to that. Uh, what else was I listening to? A lot of Seven Bomar. I was listening to some Bill Donahue. Um, there's two religious Bill Donahues, by the way. It shouldn't be hard to figure out which one I was listening to. Um, Dan Winter. Uh, Anything else? I think there was something else too. But anyway, the nows of the day collapsed to when I pressed play. I was peeing on the other side of that door, looking at my trim. There'd been or the series of nows were nowing until right when I was looking at that. And then I went over to my desk and I took out my pen. I think I wrote something down because there was something else on my mind that was unrelated. And then I threw my pen down and it hit right on the edge of the page. And it was a white pen hitting on the page. And that was it. Play. That's how it worked for me. So there was the peering that I'd thought about a week before. There was the collapsing of the nows that I noticed onto that moment and that moment. So there's all these cascades, right? Coming together now. Terrence McKenna, in one video I watched of his way back, of him way back, he talked about how we're living in a moment where all these time scales are collapsing together, where you have this geologic time scale coming together with this historical time scale, coming together with, you know, this political time scale, coming together with biological time scales, coming together with meteorological time scales, you know, so it's like you're getting this billion year sinusoidal wave collapsing upon a million year sinusoidal wave collapsing. Like, so all these things are coming to a point. The only other time I ever heard anybody else, there's this economist, I don't know anything about him, but I bought a book of his like way back, an audiobook, like way back before there was even like podcasts, you know. Harry S. Dent Jr., who was I don't know, he might not even be he might be a financial whatever, you know, Wall Street guy, but he was saying the same thing about financial systems like that we're living in this time. He actually, I think he called it the coming apocalypse, you know. And that was back before I knew what the word apocalypse meant, but and he was saying the same thing about financial markets, and he may have referenced other things as well, but like, you know, this collapse of to a moment, right? So anyway, just as a reference, this is already longer than I wanted it to be. Um, but like developing a protocol, so it's a weird thing. Like, so me in my past, I'm deciding like I'm gonna do this thing. So that informs the next week's worth of my time period. And then I have a vision appearing, and the past has informed what I'm going to do in the future beyond that peering. But if I didn't do in the future, the things that I did, I wouldn't have had that peering. One of the things I've thought about doing is like predicting words, for instance. So this is part of the protocol, and this is actually, I'm calling upon people for this, right? So I'm trying to educate a little bit as I can. I'm stumbling around here with this stuff, you know. One of the reasons why, even though I am like the least among anybody, um, in so many ways, I'm like the last person you should ever listen to, right? Having that said, I think I'm on to something. But what I think I'm on to, like, you know, please watch my other two videos. I don't even necessarily think that this process is a super huge big deal. And I mentioned the veil and like peering beyond it, how to, you know, that I can quote unquote navigate it. Now, there may be other things to be found in the veil for good. I'm convinced there are things bad in the veil to find. many a panoply of badness, you know, including gaining power for yourself. That's bad. That you shouldn't do, right? Stealing power. You know, so I'm convinced that type of thing can be gotten from the veil itself. So far, at my little baby level, it's worthless. Let it go and get past it. Why do I think that's valuable though? Well, the value I find in that is that there is a result. It's provable, it's scientific. And if more people are able to do that and accumulate a body of work, it's just as much proof as a mathematical proof. You know, if we can accumulate this body of knowledge experientially, you know, towers of false education will fall immediately. So, and even if it means that what I'm doing won't be seen for 100 years, that's okay. It just has to happen. So that's why I'm just trying to give whatever little bit I have, hoping that it connects with someone, something, right? So, just another reminder: if you're spacing out, if you feel a quote unquote phase change and kind of space out and see an oval come, there's a kind of sensation, but it's a sensation of, it's almost like an anti-sensation. It's something you can't place on a part of your body, yet you feel it. It's this weird like pressure change. Very, 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 very subtle. And it's just spacing out, and you see that oval come. You might feel like you're going to black out, and you might. And if that's how you feel, get away. Do something else. But if you feel all right, and you see that kind of oval come, my recommendation, just because it worked for me, turn almost, don't get to complete blackness, but like just about, like like a little darker than dusk, and look at something dark where there's just a little bit of lightness in it. In that state, if you have the oval coming, I'm assuming you are going to interact with the veil. That will be the fire, maybe faces. They may take all types of shapes. If you're engaging with the veil proper, it may have that fiery wood grain type of look to it. If you're starting to engage in the power of the boundary, the veil, it may take on these other very strange, like, have you ever seen a flea under a microscope? You know, you might start seeing shapes like that. It's my suggestion that you give that no look, and then just stop thinking, stop trying to think about anything. You will, the words will come up, but just let them come, let them go. And then that's when it comes out of that swirl, and it'll just be like gray on black, or there won't be much differentiation in color. Now, I've also seen other things that I've not mentioned while doing this practice that I don't yet have an explanation for. I'm assuming I will if I keep up this practice, you know. And it's not much of a practice. It just started happening to me, and I noticed it. You know, it wasn't one of the things I look for a lot. This just kind of came, you know. But anyway, as far as the protocol, it's trying to create a process to actually like prove this stuff, you know. So I was thinking like I want to maybe start focusing on words or numbers. And so what that means is I'm assuming there will come a point or a time, probably because I'm talking about it now, I'm in, I'm engaging the process, so to speak. Is I'll see, this is what I'm assuming is going to happen. I'll see an oval coming. I'll know that I'm getting into the thing. And for me, I'll either sit against my bed and look at my TV, but that's a small, because it's far away, so it doesn't fill up much of my field of vision. It was much, I found it better the other day when basically I turned off all my lights and just about everything in here was black, and I stared at my painting, which even though it's colored now, it was mostly black with just a little bit of the lighter things showing up, but just barely. It was almost like black and black, or black and very, 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 very dark gray, like type of contrast, and that gave just enough for the mind to kind of play with a little bit. And so it was a bigger surface, and I also was able to lay down, which I still prefer meditating and all that laying down, because I'm just much more relaxed, because my body's in complete shambles. So if I'm sitting up or standing or anything else, like, I pretty much always feel uncomfortable because of a lot of reasons, and not the least of which is because of the way I treat myself, and because of the way I treat myself, my ligaments and tendons are all screwed up, and then I go to work and, you know, be physical after not being a physical person, not stretching, not doing all the things. Sometimes I'll do a little bit of that stuff. I used to before, but I'm in a kind of a bad place in my life. So yeah, I like to lay down, and it's just easier for me. And so what I'm assuming is that I'll start to feel that I'm organically or just naturally coming into that state. I'll be like, okay, lay down, okay, get my lights off, all right, and not like, oh, I'm just like, okay, this is happening. Lay down, do the thing, do the look. Now it's easier for me to just disengage the veil. Most times, I shouldn't say I'm beyond it, because my emotions are a big problem, and actually that's one of the things I didn't mention at all. The biggest work in being able to do this for me has actually had nothing to do with this, but has had to do with managing my emotions and digging deep into the things that pretty much really, really bother me, and finding ways to overcome that, my anger and so on. Maybe that'll be a whole nother issue, but like trying to find forgiveness for people, even people who have done like really, really horrible, unspeakable things I'd never talk about. And I talk about a lot of shit. um, Things, and actually trying to find like love and appreciation for that in my life, like for real, not just lip service. Because my lip service to it ain't nothing nice, you know. Um, but like that type of work is actually what's given me what it takes to get past these visual vision boundary experiences, as small as they are, and trust me, they're very small. I've already talked too much for that little 1 minute, but I just want to get it out there, because I have a, you know, maybe more than a strong suspicion that in the future, you know, there'll be more. But yeah, so then I suspect what will happen is then I might see a word or numbers, and but what that will mean is that later on, there will be all these harmonic series collapsing to the moment of the pressing plays and the doing this and trying to prove things. But I also know that if I'm looking at the screen on my phone, I'm not going to be able to see numbers. So it means that if I see numbers in a vision, after the number or word or whatever appears on my screen, like pretty much directly after, what I'm going to have to do is take out some big pieces of paper, write each letter on its own. Or if it's a small word or small numbers, just write them really big. Or maybe get out a piece of poster board and with a huge magic marker or kind of a medium sized brush, like write the things really big because I know that I'm not going to be able to see anything in fine detail yet. Maybe as time goes on, I'll be able to, you know. It's like I'm a baby first opening my eyes, you know. Everything's cloudy. There's no focus, you know, but you can make some stuff out. So once I'm done seeing whatever I see, like I'll have the peering, I'll have the event, I'll see the word or the numbers or whatever. Then I'll watch my phone. I'll see the thing, and then once I see the thing, I'll write it out big and put it and fill my field of vision with it. I guess it doesn't have to be that big. It just matters how much it fills your field of vision. You know, then I'll do that. So I guess that's what I mean by protocol is like thinking about what you're going to do in the future that's going to actually influence the past. And isn't that interesting? So like in not just an atemporal, but a backwardsness in time influence on the past. So anyway, if this is something that you know you think you can do, or if it's something you've experienced, or if you know if it's a type of process you've engaged in, I guess those are just kind of they're really simple recommendations, but uh, it seems to have worked. It worked a lot faster because a week ago when I was thinking about it, I was like, yeah, this is something I might be able to do in the next year, you know. And then it was just like, and again, I understand it was small, but it's I got to say it's a little bit convincing now. I also recognize that you could say, oh, he faked it, this, that, whatever. I totally get that, you know. And I would say the exact same thing. So I'd say a lot more than that, you know, and I have. So, but I feel like if enough people do this over time, in also like now, don't get me wrong, because obviously I can get heated and about a lot of different things, you know. But as we come to understand things and we can be a matter of fact about it, why not? You know, suck some of the. There's plenty of things to dump our emotions into, but once we understand something and we can step back from it unemotionally, even though it's still an emotional subject, because like I said, I believe this process is used against people deliberately in in bad kinds of magic, you know, and that maybe even the people practicing it don't understand what they're doing. And it's funny that little baby Jeff should say he understands, you know. But there's all kinds of different ways to understand, and that's the thing about a unified theory. Because what I'm talking about now also has to make sense with like my philosophy and the things that have happened in my life. It has to make sense with what little bit of knowledge of math or language or anything that I understand, psychology or you know, everything has to make sense together because it's all one fucking thing. Everything, right? So I guess that's it. The protocol. If you see the oval or you see the dancing shadows, I've tried to give a little bit of advice as to if you're feeling good or feeling bad, either engage or walk away. And if you engage, have a plan for what you're going to do in about an hour, or maybe it's different times for different people. You know, maybe as I see differently, that time frame might change. Hold your head still and think to yourself when you're peering. Remind yourself, I'm going to hold my head still. You know, make these recommendations to yourself while you're in the moment of peering, and then make sure you do it when the time comes. But, kind of as I said before, like, if you see it, you're gonna do it because you wouldn't have seen it if you didn't, you know. So I know that when I see numbers and letters, it's gonna be because after I find them in a live event, you know. And like the better the live event, the better the recording. If I could do it during the Super Bowl, if I could do it during, whatever. If I could do it during some big live event or some just obscure thing, and I'm going to also develop other ways of the protocol as far as random ways to come up with what to search for. So it wouldn't necessarily just have to be news or this or that, just so long as it's live. Um, and maybe not even necessarily live if you had a good enough random of a process. If you had an alphabet board, you know, and if you had an alphabet board and you just dumped a bunch of pennies on it, and then took every letter for every penny as you came up, you know, just as if you were reading the alphabet board, and you just picked up every penny and just laid it all down and came up with the closest phonetic symbolism of whatever that is, you know, or just devised some kind of system that was more or less random, and then searched for that, or, different ways to make the protocol less gameable, just to prove that it's real. So I guess this third one is really, yeah, it's not teaching, it's just an idea, like a study group. And the point for doing this isn't to like, oh, or if it, because I'm guessing that I'll progress. I might over time get better. I might get worse too. But like, the potential exists that I might get better, and just in case, it would be really important to preserve this. Why? To crumble down error, to crumble down the lie, to crumble down falsehood, to crumble down disbelief. That's why. Push it aside and it will never come back. Imagine. Imagine that. Like, it could just take a handful of people doing something really simple to chop the head off a big fucking dragon that has been haunting this world for a long time. Right? That one arrow, that one major, massive arrow that finds that one missing scale in the dragon, and it's over forever. Right? That's huge. It's daunting, but try not to think about the dauntingness of it. I'm feeling it right now. It's just like, what? Me? Come on. But if I think that way, it'll never happen. Somebody's got to do it, right? Now, there's plenty of people doing all kinds of shit. But we got to chip in. Got to chip in. Right? And if you know what I'm talking about, I guess I'm not like pleading with you or asking you or commanding you, nothing like that. I'm just saying, hey, give it a shot. Give it a shot. And doesn't matter if I don't come to, somebody's going to bubble up. And then there's the whole philosophy of hide yourself. That was the old philosophy. I'll get into that some other time. The old philosophy was hide yourself, and there were reasons, and there were reasons why now that is not the philosophy. The philosophy is proclaim, you know, the best you can. I mean, so different subject, but anyway, I'm hoping this wraps up my Proofecy Protocol playlist for a little while, you know, where I think I more or less said what I had to say. And good luck, you know, best wishes, and we could actually do this. We could help. We could help, and it's not, and we couldn't have done it without all this technology brought to us for connection. I certainly couldn't have, and all the things I've learned, you know. So thanks to those who have come before, and I apologize that I'm just insufficiently grateful, and I apologize that I'm such a pretty much I'm pretty much a bitch a lot of the time to the world, kind of. I'm sorry for that. You know. But yeah. Good luck, Godspeed, all that kind of stuff, and I actually feel pretty good about this. And so much as I'm able to feel good lately, like I actually feel pretty good about this. So, thank you.